Okay, this is Brian Watkins. This is my video tutorial for the fourth test in which we prepare a simple interest loan calculator. And what we're going to be doing here is teaching how to use the if statement logic in order to produce pretty stunning results on the visual aspect of the spreadsheet. So we're going to start with the title, prepared by, prepared on, purpose. Okay, I think that describes it. So we'll go out to G, we'll merge it, wrap the text, top align it, left justify, and looks like I didn't hit some button well enough. Okay, so there we go. Now, I've noticed a lot of people are making spelling errors. So go to Review, Spelling, start at the beginning, Spreadsheet. There we go. Now it's complete. That is so easy to do, and it's worth so many points. Please get in the habit. Okay, so our data section, and let's use the light blue. It's up and thick black border. Okay, and we're going to have a principal loan amount, annual, that's redundant. Our interest rates are always annual. Our loan period in years, and then we're going to have the monthly payment, which could be interest only, total interest payments, total principal payment, and then total loan payments. Okay, and then we're going to have a check figure, which I will explain a little bit later. Okay, let's give ourselves some room to work. We can always put that back later. So I think a 12 would be good on this one. Alright, and you remember the trick? We'll highlight the column with the names and the column of blanks, and we'll use our shortcut Control-Shift-F3 to create names from selection. Okay, the other way to get it is just to go to Formulas, Create from Selection. See how it says Control-Shift-F3? So Control-Shift-F3. Create the names. Done. Now we'll select the names, Control-X to cut them, Control-V to paste them. Okay, so we have all our names there, and we're going to use a different format for the data section in this project. So for our principal loan amount, let's just use 350. Alright, haven't formatted yet. Our interest rate will be 6 1/8. Our loan period, let's go for a 3-year loan. Let's call let's see, everything else will be good. So these three will get a colored background, and we're going to describe this. We're going to use the accounting format at that time. The interest rate, let's center that and give it its necessary 3 digits. We'll center that. Okay, and so now we're going to have a monthly payment. Well, what's our monthly payment going to be? It's going to be, our interest rate, actually let's do principal times, whoops, come on, our interest rate divided by 12 because it's monthly. So there's our interest, and let's put that in as a straight comma format. Our total interest payments is going to be this interest payment, which we're going to make every month for the duration of the loan. So that's going to be the loan period in years times 12. Don't really need the parentheses here, but it's a good habit. So we'll have our total interest payments in that amount. Okay, and then our total principal payment, here's probably the easiest formula you'll see for a while. We have to repay the principal. So let's put that back in. And then that's all going to add up and be our total loan payments. And one of the conventions that's come down through hundreds of years of bookkeeping is that when I draw a line, all the numbers above it will be totaled, and I'll draw 2 lines below it to show that it's a total. So we're going to use the top and double bottom border right there inside our data section. That's a 2-point important format to use. Okay, and then our total will be, of course, the total interest payments we make over the life of the loan, plus the repayment of the principal at the end. That will be our total payments. And let's do that in accounting format. Okay, so what we've done here, we've differed because the 3 opening variables get set off, but these 3 are kind of, let's line them up on the decimal place. It looks cleaner than to center them all. Finally, we'll get to the check figure when we get to the answer. A check figure is generally a way of recalculating a number so that you can double check it at a later time. The work we're going to do in this one is going to largely be in preparing our answer section. We're going to do something a little different. So let's put that light green in there. We'll wrap it with a thick box. And we're going to come down, and our headings are going to be for the month. We're going to have the interest, the principal, and then total payments. Okay? And these are going to be bold, underlined, and centered. Looks like we're going to need just a little bit more there. Okay. Okay, we're going to start our project with the 0 in the month column. But then we're going to do something a little bit different. So let's center our month. What we're going to do is we're going to create a counter in the month. We need a counter because we're going to need to have a logic number to test. By logic number, I simply mean we're going to need to have a variable that represents the number of the row that we're on so that we can decide whether or not we're going to do certain things in our table. So let's just go over here to the side real quick where I've selected, and no, I'm just going to put some numbers down here. Okay, here are some numbers. Actually, let me make them more random here. Any cell that has a number in it can be counted by using the count function. Okay, if I count a cell, say that J6 cell, I'm going to get a 0 because there's nothing in J6. Okay, so let me just put a text string here to show you what this says. This is the count function. Alright, if I want to change the count function, instead of J6, I'm going to put J6 through J10, which is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells. I'm going to use a range. I can use the colon between the J6 and the J10 means to set up a range of cells, and this is a single dimension range. It's just all in the J column. So altogether I've got 5 cells, and I hit enter, and it says 4. And what it's done is it's gone into this range that I've selected, and it's counted 1, 2, 3, 4 cells contain numeric text. Doesn't matter, I can change all these cells to 0. It won't change the result. But if I get rid of a 0, that 4 turns to a 3, because now I only have 3 boxes with numbers in them. And that J6, J10, let's fill it all up with numbers. So I've got number, number. Okay, so now I have 5. If for whatever reason in my count function I forget how to describe all 5 at once and I put a comma there, then I can only have 2, because the comma means 2 cells. Now if I wanted to, I could put comma J11, comma J12, comma J13. I could, let's see, I could fill that up. Where did I go? Oh, I went down here, sorry. I forgot the J7, J8, J9. Didn't mean to create one like that. And so helpfully Excel has drawn a color box around each cell that I'm testing there, and the comma means that each of those cell addresses is a single box to test. Now it's much easier to just take out all the middle if I want to and just put a colon there. J6 colon J13 draws a box and it counts them all. And I can make these ranges, J6 through J13, I can make them go across columns. So if I change J13 to say L13, you can see what I've done is I've stretched out a box with J6 at one corner up here and L12 at that corner. And it's perfectly acceptable to have that box. I can put numbers anywhere inside it. See, and my counter is going up. So anywhere in that box. And I guess the maximum would be 15. Or no, the box was lower than that. The box had 21 different places in it. Okay? So that's a range. A range is a cell address and another cell address separated by the colon. So let's clear all this out. You now know the count function. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the count function to determine whether or not we're on the right row. Okay, and so first we're going to say if, and inside the if, this is the most important function you'll ever learn, is a test. Okay, we're going to test something, and if our test is true, the computer is going to return this value, which is between 2 commas. It's very important. If it's false, it will return a second value. So this is like a branch in the road, and we could tell the computer which way to go. So we're going to set up a logical test that does count, and we're going to count the range B20 to B20. But we're going to do something to this. We're going to take that first B20, and what I did there is I double clicked inside the address. As long as the cursor is on the B2 or 0, if I double click, it highlights the whole address. So I'm going to highlight that first address. I'm going to press F4, which puts in those $signs, and hopefully you remember. Whoops, didn't do it. F4, and then I'm going to hit enter and go back to my formula. And what I'm doing there is I'm creating a range that starts with B20 and ends with B20. So the count function there should return the number 1. And that will mean, of course, that I'm on row number 1. So now I'm going to do a test. If my row number 1 is greater than my loan period in years times 12, okay, that means I'm outside the scope of the loan schedule that I'm creating, and I don't want to see any number. I only want to see 3 years worth of numbers. So what that means is if my count should get up to 37, let's see, 3 times 12 is 36. If it gets to 37, then if that's true, I want to see nothing. And nothing is described in Excel as a blank or a null text string. Text strings or text variables have quotes on either side. So if I just do 2 quotes, Excel interprets that as nothing. So if the count is greater than the loan period in years times 12, put nothing in the cell. Otherwise, I want you to put the number in B20 and add 1 to it. And then we'll close it. That's our if statement. Okay, and I don't know why it's in the middle here. There's the count, value 1, value 2, okay. And so if I click here, let's see. Oh, I haven't closed the count function. Alright, so I didn't need that parenthesis. Boom, there we go. So my logical test is take the result of the count function, see if it's greater than the loan period in years times 12. If it's true, when I click on value of true, it goes between these 2 commas and it says blank. If it's false, then do B20 plus 1. Okay, now I'm going to need, according to my sample test, I have to be capable of putting 30 in here and having my results show. So that means that I've got to have at least, let's center this before I do the formatting, I have to pull this down 360 times. Now I want just this formula. I don't want to mix up the 0. If I were to do this, then it would say 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 all the way down. I'm not trying to use the fill to go 0, 1, 2, 3 as we did in the first 2. Instead, I'm taking just this formula that you see. Okay? Just that formula. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula down 360. So let's see here. I'm on row 21, so that means I'm going to go to 381. Okay, 381. Alright, now if I go up here, it should be telling me, there, perfect. 36 is the last number you see. So let me change this to 30. Now that my loan period in years equals 30, I should see numbers all the way down to 360. I do. So I've done that correctly. And this is the really nice part about if statements. If I change this to loan period in years of 1, then it's just 1 through 12. I don't have to worry about grouping data or doing some kind of kludge fix or a fudge. This is something that will adjust itself to the numbers that we put in. That's good programming. We're not hard coding anymore. The first two projects we hard coded because frankly you didn't know enough to do the if statement. Okay, so now that we've done the if statement, let's ask ourselves, what's the interest going to be? Well, the interest is going to be the monthly payment because you're always making the regular monthly payment of interest. Okay, and let's format it. We use a comma format, and if I double click on it, it goes all the way down. Now, what do you see here? You see a column that shows up all the way to 360. Well, we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the if statement here, and we're going to redo an otherwise simple formula to make it smart. So now I'm going to say if this cell right next to me, B21, is equal to a blank cell, then stay blank. But if B21 is not a blank cell, meaning value if false, put the monthly payment. And why is that going to work? Because my logic is already in my month number. The month number knows now, it's smart, it knows after 12, if the loan period in years is 1, it knows to stop showing loan numbers after 12. Okay, so let's enter this. And let's use the double click to copy it down. And even though you don't see a formula here, I'll flip the screen, the formulas are all the way down to 360. So the autofill, I can use double click. And you see, the formulas still go all the way down to 360, but the formulas now are smart. And they only show me the numbers that I want to see. Okay, so now let's look at principal. If I were to use the same logic to decide whether to put a principal number there, it wouldn't work, because the principal number is supposed to show up one time, and that is on the month when I'm going to repay the loan. So if my loan period in years is 1, I'm going to repay the loan on the last payment of 12. So I have to come up with a formula that will always put the principal in the cell if it's on a row that equals the loan period in years times 12. Okay, if it's a 2-year loan, I want it on line 24, 3 on line 36. So let's put that logic into play by doing equals if. Okay, now let's do our test. We're going to look at our month number. If B21 equals our loan period in years times 12, that means we're on the last line of the loan. So if that's true, let's put our total principal payment in. If it's not true, let's just stay blank. Okay? So there it is. I'm going to put a comma format on it, and then I'm going to, and remember why this works, there are formulas all the way down. So even though you don't see one, those formulas are there, and I can double click, and let's look. There it is. Okay, it showed up right there. Now if I say 2, that means I'm going to want to see 24 months, and I'm going to want the principal to go down another 12. And it did. And likewise, if I were to hit 3 or any number up to 30, it would move around specifically as I asked the computer to move it. Great. Now let's look at total payments. If, now, what do I want in this cell? I want this cell to be the sum of the interest and the principal. Actually, no, I want to, sorry, back up. I want this to sum up how many payments I have made, okay, over the life of the loan so far, so that when we get to the end, my total payments will equal the total loan payments. So the total payments for any given month will be interest plus principal, but my total payments over the life of the loan, I want them to equal this number I calculated earlier. So I can say, is column B21, okay, which is on the same row. A common error I see with students is they'll test a row below, and that will mess up the logic. Just as easily mess it up if you tested the row above. You want each row to rely on its own month number. If the month number is blank, stay blank. Otherwise, and I hope you understand what's going on, look at the gray box. If B21 equals blank, that's my test. And when I put a comma, now I get to say, okay, if it's blank, what do you want the computer to do? Well, I want it to put a blank. Now another comma, what do you want the computer to do if it's false? If it's false, I want it to use the sum function, okay, and I want to sum these two cells, C21 and D21. And why am I using the sum function? Because if I add a blank cell, sometimes Excel will throw an error code. But the sum function is well behaved. The sum function can handle a blank cell without creating an error code. So it gives me my total payment, which is correct, and I can copy it all down, and 351, 786.46. Okay, and does that equal my total loan payments? No, it doesn't. So what's going on here? That is the purpose of a check figure. If this doesn't add up to this, there's something wrong. Well, what's happening here is my logic is wrong. I'm adding up just this column, but I also need to put on that sum so that it will accurately keep a running total. I'm going to total the cell above. Okay? So when I total the rows in the cell above, come on, it should, what was the correction there? It put, okay, sometimes in these if statements you have to be careful with the with the number of parentheses you have. There we go. So if it's false, I want the sum of the two numbers plus the number above. And if it's true, I just want a blank. Okay, looks good. I just screwed it up. Looks good, so hit enter. And why did it say false? Because I just erased this comma. Okay. If you forget to tell the computer a value for the false, it will fill one in for you. It'll just say true or false. Okay, so I want it to say sum if false, blank if true. And now, when I do it, 371 equals 371. That's the purpose of a check figure. Okay, it helps you to make sure that you do your logic right. Okay, I want to try something. I've done this every time. I'm going to see what happens if I take out the sum function and I just say this plus E20. Yeah, it does. I cannot understand why it does that, but it does. So it might not on yours, so we're going to replace those two with the sum of those two numbers, and everything works fine. So I guess there's some reason for that. Alright, now we've got a little bit of a problem. To do a check figure, I have to look at the final result. Okay, so if it's a 1-year loan, I look here. If it's a 2-year loan, I'm going to look down here. What if it's a 2.5-year loan? Well, then I'm going to look here. See, I have to figure out exactly how to find my total payments. Well, here's something that's going to come in handy, and that's the I can use as my substitution for this. I can define anything in these two columns from 0 all the way down to where it ends. Look, if I put a 30 here, going all the way down to the end, this range will contain all of my payments. Okay? So instead of having to find one cell, I can just define this as a range. I can say my check figure is the sum of, let's do this range again, and I'm using the end down to go to the bottom. Okay, this range, close the range. Now it draws a blue box, contains all of the numbers that should, if I subtract out total loan payments, this should go to 0. And I defined this as a comma style, which means that, let's take off it turns to 0. Okay, I like to put the check mark because a check figure of anything else turns to 0. So let's put here, if I have for some reason $5 extra principal payment, that check figure is going to show $5 too much. Okay, so now I'm going to copy the correct, I'll do this in formula mode. So see where I put that 5 and I made a blank in my formulas? If I just double click there, I clean that right up. Or if I were to short my interest, let's say over here in month 4 I only paid $1,200. Well, now I've got negative 586. Okay, and again I can clean that up by just double clicking. So my check figure is a really good way of signaling my user that there's a problem. Okay, let me adjust month 4 there. Now, I'm going to teach you how to use conditional formatting. We're going to put a rule on this check figure. So you have to select the cell first, go to conditional formatting, and I'm going to have a new rule. Okay, and I'm going to use a formula, sorry, where is it here? Format cells that contain. So what I want to do is I want to see if that cell value contains an error. Now over 30 years, you're going to create a rounding error, just like you saw in your amortization exercises. And that rounding error could throw your check figure off. So instead of saying, is my cell value positive or negative, meaning is it something other than 0, I'm going to say not between. And this is very important, because if I have a negative 0.01 error or a positive 0.01 error, I want to see it. But if it's negative, if it's 0.005, I don't care. I only care when it adds up to 1 cent. So here's my rule. If that check figure has an error that's greater than 1 cent in either direction, I want to see a warning format. Okay, and the warning format that you're instructed to do in the test is basically, let's put the format on. It's not responding. I've crashed my computer. Come on. Hopefully it will come back. Good. I want the font to be bright yellow. That's a good warning. And I want the background to be bright red. That looks sufficiently warning. So I'll hit OK. Nothing will happen there. Okay, if I pay 0.0001 in principal too much, I see a 0 there, but nothing happens. Okay, so if I clean this up, that should go completely away. What if I pay too much? Paid 1,000. Warning. See, now it pops up in a bright format, and that yellow is getting lost here. So let's edit the rule. If your rule is not working correctly, okay, you go to Conditional Formatting, manage your rules. There's your rule. Edit the rule, and you can make changes. So if I go to Format, I could go to my font, and I can say bold that font. Maybe that'll make it look a little better. I think it does. I think it helps it stand out a bit more. Okay, now, many students struggle with getting this rule correct, and I see 3 or 4 or 5 rules stacked on one another. If you make a change to your rule, delete the rule, because if you get multiple rules on one cell, you can't predict what the results are going to be. So now that you're done, before you turn in your test, you should take your interest, and you should see what happens if you do a short payment. Short payment comes in negative. Okay, so I'll fix that. And what happens if I make too much payment? It shows too much. Alright, so that is how to use conditional formatting. Now, so that nobody gets surprised in a year or two when you pull this up and you've forgotten all the bells and whistles that you put into your spreadsheet, every cell in the spreadsheet is capable of holding a comment or an explanation. I'm going to put an explanation on this check figure, and I do that by right-clicking with the cell selected and inserting a comment. And the comment is going to be, this check figure is designed to show up in yellow font with a red background in the event that there is a discrepancy between the calculated loan payments and the loan payments shown in the schedule. Or maybe I should put, and the actual loan payments shown in the schedule. Alright, now, I'm not done formatting this because I have lots of text in it. I want to be able to see it, so I'm going to stretch out the box. That's a very common error students make, is they give me the box, but it's not stretched out enough. The other thing I can do is move that box up to where it's kind of out of my way. Okay, so I hit enter. Now I have, it didn't do it, come on. Let's edit the comment, edit it. Okay, stay put. And now I'm going to hide the comment. There's show, hide. Okay, so now, okay, not going to fight with it. Doesn't matter where it shows up. So if I hover over the check figure, I want to see a comment that tells the user what's going to happen. And you see down here, look down here in this little section when I hover. There's a comment, and whoever is logged on and enters that comment, it will tell you. So on this test, there's going to be 10 points for doing a successful comment, and there's going to be another 10 points for doing a successful check figure. Okay, and this comment shows up no matter what. I don't want you to turn it in with the comment being shown. There's an option here. Once you have a comment in a cell, you get to see these edit and delete comments. Where it says show and hide comment, if I click that, that means that comment's always going to be there, right where I said it was going to be. Okay, that's a shown comment. And you can do all kinds of good things with that. You can even put pictures in these boxes. I don't want you to do this. That's an error. I want you to hide the comment. And a comment is never truly hidden because that little red triangle will always be there to show that this cell contains a comment. And I don't have to have it selected. Let's leave my selection here in I8. My cursor controls whether I see the comment or not. Okay, that is, let's double check page layout here. Print titles. I want a special footer. Let's not forget to do that. Let's take a look at our output to make sure that it's balanced. Okay. Looks good. That's the full 30 years. Okay, now that I've checked everything, I would go back, I would look at my test, and I would make sure that my numbers here equal whatever the amount was that you were asked to put in by the test. That is the simple interest loan calculator, and that is a project that is designed to teach you the wonderful flexibility. Let me put a half a year there. So now we don't get reams of trash information when we go past the number that matters. Now we can determine only to display the information that pertains to what we are doing. And that is a skill that most Excel programmers never take advantage of. So practice up. I'm going to have I believe a 45-minute time frame on this. It looks like I've taken 37 so far, and I've been talking most of the time. So I think that balances out my fast typing, and that you shouldn't have any problem getting this done in the limit. So good luck, and contact me if you have any questions. I'll put this back to 4 before I save it.